Welcome to another episode of Listen, Learn, and Love, hosted by Richard Osler. My guests on today's podcast are my friends Ricardo and Elizabeth Rosas. Welcome.
Thank you.
Just by background, and I'll let them do most of the talking, Ricardo and Elizabeth are married. You have 6 kids.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Wonderful looking kids. And I became aware of Ricardo when a Mormon and gay video came out. And Ricardo identifies as same-sex attraction and talked about his journey having same-sex attraction and in what's called a mixed orientation marriage. And I'm grateful to have Elizabeth here also to talk about what it's like to be the straight partner in a mixed orientation marriage. So when I was becoming an ally, Ricardo's video was very helpful for me, and I just recognized here's a man with incredible courage to share his story. And it's a wonderful story. And then Ricardo and I went to lunch about a month or so ago, and that was a wonderful lunch just to hear more about your story. And my respect, love, and admiration for you, Ricardo, just went kind of up through the roof.
Thank you.
When I realized more of your story and your courage and your closeness with Christ. But one of the things you talked about to me was the love you have for your wife, Elizabeth. And what a great job she is doing. And I've never had a podcast where I've had the straight spouse kind of talking about what this is like. And I've had so many people in the last couple of months reach out to me in mixed orientation marriages. And in every one of those cases, they want that marriage to work. There's this common goal for both spouses to make it work. And sometimes it's the straight spouse reaching out saying, what do I do? Or what are... And I thought, how wonderful to have Elizabeth on the podcast to share a little bit about this, because we do have some high-profile mixed orientation marriages that have ended. Mm-hmm. But I think we need to have as many stories about great marriages like you that are strong and healthy and staying together.
Yes.
So thank you for joining us. Ricardo is a 20-year marketing communications executive and currently works for the church. Can you just introduce yourself to us, Ricardo?
Okay. Yeah, my name is Ricardo Rosas, and I'm originally from Mexico City. Been here half my life and went to BYU, graduated, work in advertising, marketing companies. And I've been working for the church for 5.5 years. And because of my employment, back when the Mormon and Gay website was being in production as a creative director. I was creative director for CES and for public affairs. And that was one of the projects that I was asked to work on as part of my job. Little did I know that project was going to completely change many aspects of my life. It was, I just really jumped and dove into it really deep. In that project, when I was working on that project, that's when I began to learn and obtain the tools that I needed to be able to understand this experience. Growing up in Mexico City, I come from a culture that sees being gay as a very, very negative thing. Many cultures see it. But in Mexico, it's just a different way to see the world, and it's a lot more. The concept of being a man is very different in regards of the whole macho culture. So I never felt safe or comfortable to talk about it with anyone. So when I started working on this project, I began to learn. I began to educate myself. And it was quite of a process. It was not an easy thing. But I was asked if I would want to share my story. When public affairs asked me that, I thought, okay, let me talk to my wife.
Smart guy.
And
that's why you've been married so many years.
Well, we pray. We went to the temple. And I really gave it a lot of thought. And Elizabeth, feel free to say anything that you want to say. But one thing that Elizabeth told me at the beginning was, if you want to do it, I support you. That's what she said.
I did.
And after a lot of prayer and went to the temple, I just I received a personal confirmation from the Spirit, from the Lord, that I should do it. Basically, what I felt, what I was told by the Spirit is, share your story, I'll soften hearts.
Yeah.
And we went for it. Little did we know all the stuff that will happen afterwards. But yeah, that's basically how I got involved in that, and how is that my story ended up in the website, and that's how.
And what
The
year
video
did,
way.
I'm trying to remember, Ricardo, what year did that come out?
The website was launched on October 25th, 2016.
So it's been out 2 years.
The video that we
And
did.
you're in your 40s, just for our listeners.
Yeah, I am 49.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm 49. When
So you're a young guy compared to me.
I don't feel very young, but yeah, when we did the video shooting, and the interview for the video was in December 2015. So I was 45 when I did that
Okay.
video. It took about a year for the website to launch, and the rest is history. But yeah, that was when, in 2015 is when I started working on that project.
And I want to come back to that. Elizabeth, introduce your family to us. Tell us how many kids you have
All right. Well, we've
and
been
their
blessed
ages.
with.
And
Yeah.
yeah, where are you from and everything?
Okay.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay. So I'm Elizabeth Rosas. I'm been married to Ricardo now for 20 years. We just celebrated 20 years this summer, and let's see, our kids range from 18 down to 9. So when Ricardo started working on the Mormon Gay website, gosh, that was about 3 years ago. So I think, yeah, they were younger. And, but yeah, I've got 2 kids on the spectrum, so they keep me busy, keeping them safe. And
When you say on the spectrum, explain
The
that.
autism
The autism
spectrum.
spectrum.
so one is Asperger's and the other one is more severe.
Uh-huh.
So, but anyways, I love my kids, and they're my joy, and of course my husband. So, yeah.
How did you two meet?
BYU, one of those BYU stories.
Yeah.
A roommate.
We live in the same apartment complex. She live in a different building, obviously,
Well,
but
there was the male side. And then
Which apartment complex?
Moon
it was
Apartments.
called Moon Apartments. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, yeah. So we met through my roommate Florencia from Argentina.
Yeah, I met Florencia back when I was at Rick's College. So this is totally dating us, But yeah, back at Rick's, I met my friend, and then she moved to Provo, and Elizabeth was her roommate.
Yeah, I just moved in that week, and so you came to see Florencia, and she introduced us. And
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here across from this couple. I wish our listeners could just see what I'm seeing. They're just, their 2 mics are just right together. They're right together. They're holding hands at the table. And I just felt when I met Ricardo, and now I'm meeting Elizabeth, this is just a beautiful love story of the way you are doing this. And it's different than a typical love story, but it's still a beautiful story.
Thank you.
And I have to think of the lessons that your own kids are learning because of being members of your family, and how when their parents and grandparents, they'll reflect back on you two and the things you're teaching them because you're open and authentic and real. So talk about when, you became aware that Ricardo, and I don't know, do you want to use the term gay or same-sex attraction or
honestly, I'm okay going either or. At the beginning, this is something important that I just want to be able to share, is that because, I'm 49. When I was a teenager in the 80s, the word gay implied a sexual activity. Now, I know that implies more of an identity. And before I came, I was just refreshing things. I was reading the Mormon and Gay website, and the advice, the counsel that we get there is that is really our choice to decide how we identify ourselves, understanding that there is a result to how you decide to identify yourself. But I feel that in the space within the LDS LGBTQ community, we all are basically experiencing many different journeys. And my intent to share my story, or my wife and I's story together, is not to impose our story into anyone. We're just sharing what has worked for us, and we fully respect each individual story, whatever the journey takes them. So I just want to make sure, because unfortunately after the website came out, and just because it is what it is, and people noticed your story, at times I've been hardly criticized,
Mm-hmm.
basically saying the church is using you as a tool to impose on other LGBTQ youth your path.
Mm-hmm.
And no, we're just sharing our story, and we're just sharing what has worked for us. In no way, shape, or form we are imposing our lives, how we pattern our journey into anyone.
That's so
I just
thoughtful.
I just want to make sure that people knows that we are aware, we are conscious. We have many friends in many stages in their journey, and we love them all.
I love that. And we start, if I think our listeners know this from prior podcasts, I like to start with a prayer. The three of us prayed, and we just pray that, like the things that Ricardo just said, are so important. And we hope that, thoughts and ideas come into your minds as listeners as you're navigating this road, as you listen to Ricardo and Elizabeth. And that's a great principle. It's interesting. My LGBTQ friends almost have more compassion for other LGBTQ people on the road because they know this road so well. So what you said was so thoughtful, this is our journey. This is what's working for us. We hope this podcast will help other mixed orientation marriages that want to work. But I recognize because you're so brave to be out there, then people, take your story and want to impose it on others and say, do what Ricardo and Elizabeth are doing. And I think you're really thoughtful in saying, this is our journey. You've got to figure out your own journey, but it may help you for us to share our story.
Yeah, and to me that's very important, because we both have received both praise and criticism, and we both have learned to be strong through that. I feel that that's something that for us, it's not that we're trying to prove anything to anyone or putting up a show. We just love each other, and that's what matters. And I feel that from all the criticism that I have received, that is a negative one, if anything, even though it has been painful, I have learned to have compassion, because I feel that when someone has been hurt, it's very easy to be able to respond in a more aggressive way, or a more frustrated way, or hurtful way. And when we are hurt, a lot of times it's hard to have objectivity. So if anything, whenever I have gotten, and I have heard it all, I've been told many things, I just try to take a breather and say, Ricardo, you are okay, you're safe. You're safe with who you are. And that has taken me a long time. And that's why I feel it's super important to emphasize that we respect each other's journey.
It's really cool. What would you say? This is a question that just popped in my mind. If there's listeners listening that are in a mixed orientation marriage, but the partner hasn't come out to the other partner, so the other partner, so one is gay and one's straight, and the gay one hasn't opened up to the straight one. What advice would you have for the gay partner if he feels or she feels like it's the right time to talk about that?
Well, that's a very good question, and I've been asked that before. I'm going to give a little bit further context for
That's
my
great.
answer.
Great.
Elizabeth and I talk about each other, and we are very comfortable being vulnerable with each other. But it took us a while to get there. It took us a few years. At the beginning, it was a process for her, a process for me. But now that we can look a little more with the things that we have learned, and we have met many couples like us, Many times Elizabeth will just tell me, Ricardo, the same-sex attraction or being gay is not really the issue here. The issue is lack of proper communication.
It's very thoughtful.
And going back to your original question, I never told Elizabeth that I have same-sex attraction feelings or that I'm gay or whatever, because I was scared to death. And I think it's a pretty normal feeling to have.
Oh, maybe we should back up a little bit and talk about when we were dating.
Oh, yeah.
That would kind of help.
Yeah, that's
Oh, yeah,
great.
that will help a lot.
So we had met in the summer of 97, and September is when we decided to date exclusively and be boyfriend and girlfriend. Well, it took about a week, I think, and we're in my apartment and we were making dinner together, and he had told me, I have to tell you something. And I could feel like, oh, this is going to be big. Is he going to break up with me? What is he going to tell me? And I hope it's okay if I say this,
That's
but you
fine.
told me that you were sexually abused
Yeah.
and that you had thoughts and feelings about men.
It took a lot of courage, Ricardo.
So, anyways, I didn't ask anymore. I just felt honored that he would be willing to open up and say that. And so I said, okay. And he said, I want you to know, because if you're going to be my girlfriend and we're going to date, you need to know. I'm like, okay. And I think he was waiting to see if I was going to break up with him, which I didn't. I didn't want to. But you didn't explain any further what those thoughts and feelings were.
No, I left it like that.
And so I don't know if he thought I would guess, and I didn't. I didn't know if that meant he liked men or hated men, because it can go either way.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then that was it. He didn't really bring it up anymore after that. We continued to date. And
Did it connect you more with Ricardo to have him be vulnerable and honest?
what was that?
Did it connect you more with him and bring you, I like this guy more because he's real?
That didn't enter my brain. No.
You're just factually
No.
processing your stuff. That's
No.
fine.
But it was that discovery of dating and getting to know each other, and knowing what happened to him when he was a child didn't discourage me at all.
Why? Why?
Because I had good friends where they were abused in one form or fashion, and they're good, beautiful people. And just because something bad happened to you doesn't change your worth.
That's great. That's great, Elizabeth. Ricardo.
Another thing that I want to say is that we don't want to ever communicate that people that have been molested are going to be gay.
No,
I just want to make sure that there's
Good.
no confusion or argument out there.
Yeah.
That's my experience, but I'm not saying that I am gay or same-sex attracted because of the abuse. I don't want to waste time and energy on that, honestly.
Great.
It is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to make sure that I communicate that clearly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I took my chances, but I felt that it was important to tell her.
I think it took a lot of courage.
Mhm.
And
It did.
and it
And I
made
think
me
that's
feel
helpful for our listeners just to hear
Yeah.
this kind of courage.
it made me feel safe with her. But another thing that I want to communicate is that I always have had genuine love and attraction towards my wife. And I have told Elizabeth, we have talked about this before. I have told her, honey, heaven forbid something happens to you, I'm never going to marry again. Because it's going to be really hard for me to feel what I feel towards you, towards other women.
So this is
And
a
I told
special
her
woman.
the feelings that I have for you, and it was rough, because the first year, I basically told Elizabeth more fully about my same-sex attraction experience in February 2015.
Yeah.
That's when I totally opened up, because that's when I started working on this project. And by the time October came along and I have met many people in the community, learned more, getting more involved into the project, many things, it was like I was diving really deep into everything and absorbing as much information I could from a personal perspective and also from a professional perspective. Um, I hope you don't mind if I share this because I think it's important.
Okay.
One time in October, I came home from work and she was very down. And I asked, "What's going on?" And she's like, "Nothing." I'm like, "Oh no, I hate it when your wife says nothing, then you know that something's going on." And she basically told me, been looking out at our wedding pictures, and I was wondering if all of this was a lie. That if you marry me to be cured from your SSA. That was rough. I felt that my heart was sinking. And basically I just got on my knees and I told her, "Elizabeth, remember when we were dating? We were kissing all the time. My siblings were tease us that how we were always kissing and we always show affection. And I can tell you with a very clear mind and with peace of conscience in my mind that I fell in love with my wife, and I felt everything that a guy feels for a girlfriend. The one thing that made it complicated is, as I said in the smaller 3-minute video that is on my wife's essay on the Mormon and Gay website, is I thought that I was cured. I was so excited about being married and everything that I was experiencing and feeling for her. Back on those days, I didn't understand that there is a fluidity of attraction, that there is, it's not so black and white in that sense. So I was hoping that being married to my wife and experiencing intimacy with a woman will change me. Where I got really depressed after I got married, it wasn't because I was not satisfied with her. It was because I went to church and I realized that the elder quorum president was a very attractive guy.
It's honest.
And I started feeling really, really depressed because it wasn't gone away.
It's honest.
And I gained, I don't know, a lot of weight. I was like 305 pounds at that time. I gained a lot of weight because I was just eating up everything that I couldn't talk to anyone. So when I finally learned about this topic more deeply, but also I seek and I work to understand with the Spirit, one thing that I have to say that working at the church is that you have to rely on the Spirit to do your professional work. And I believe that that was the best thing that could happen to me because I was learning the words from the scriptures, the guidance from the brethren, and also I was listening to the Spirit on what was there for me. And that helped me a lot. So moving forward to that experience where Elizabeth was feeling really down, I told her, just remember everything that we felt. There's no way I was going to fake that. And that was the beginning of a lot of conversations where we basically, and I don't know if, at least for me, I don't know what Elizabeth will have to say on this, but at least for me, I had to work in rebuilding or shaping up some aspects of our marriage that were already in place, but with this new awareness, I'll have to reshape it in a way that will bless our marriage instead of separate us. One thing that I really love that Elizabeth says on her essay on the Mormon and Gay website is that as individuals married to SSA people have a unique position. She says in there that, and maybe you had to say it instead of me, but she says that the straight spouses have the opportunity to help their spouse to get closer to the Savior, or the opposite. And I'm paraphrasing, but I don't know if you have anything to say about what I just shared. But it's always scary to tell to your spouse that you experience same-sex attraction because. And I'm going to let Elizabeth talk about some more things. But yeah, she asked me, so I'm not a dude. So where do I fit in this picture? So for me, it has been more about learning to feel vulnerable with each other, uncomfortable. And also be willing to learn from each other.
Yeah.
I tell you, if Elizabeth would have rejected me, I wouldn't be sitting here talking with you.
Mm.
I would have chosen a very different path in a way that I will feel loved and accepted.
It's interesting. It's very helpful. Elizabeth,
Yeah.
this. Thank you, Ricardo. Great answer, by the way.
Yeah. It's not an easy answer, but you do it when you feel safe, and your spouse needs to help you feel safe, and he or she have to be willing to learn your journey and walk it together.
Yeah.
So take us back, Elizabeth. Share some thoughts.
Well, I think Ricardo and I have a really good friendship. And when he did come out, we were already married like 16 and a half years.
Yeah.
So we had that basis. But during that time, I was oblivious. He would go through these periods of depression, especially Sundays, and I had no idea. I was thinking he was so happy when we were dating, and Sundays were great. And then here he is, Sunday after church, he's depressed, and kept happening, and I had no idea, and I had no idea the level of shame. And so when I found out everything in 2015, and he, I'd ask questions and he would answer, I always told him, just share with me what you're comfortable with. You don't have to tell me 100% of every thought and feeling you've had. I wanted him to feel safe, that he could be vulnerable, but I wasn't gonna force anything out of him. I really think that's important. We have our free agency. And as spouses, you're hoping that you can be best friends and share everything. But I didn't feel like it was my right or duty to force things out of him. So I just wanted us to have that open communication, but it was up to him how much he wanted to share. And so I think as time went on, you kept sharing more and more. And I think it was good. And I always tried to be non-judgmental. This is your journey. It's not mine. It really is truly yours. I've never experienced same-gender attraction. I'm definitely straight. I definitely like men. I think women are beautiful, but I don't want to cuddle with them.
I love some of the things you shared there, Elizabeth. I think that's really thoughtful. And how scared were you that Ricardo was going to leave when he came out? Were you ever scared that he was going to leave as you became aware of his orientation?
So I was pretty confident because he always reassured me that I was his number one. And he said I had veto power. If I didn't like someone, a friendship, I could say, you can't be friends with that person. I didn't do that during that time. There was a previous friendship that I just didn't feel good about.
Yeah.
But Ricardo's always made me feel number one, which is great. But it was difficult because 2015 and 2016, he was going to North Star Firesides, and there's men's group and other things. And so I'm like, hello, I'm here in the background. And
It's really honest. Yeah.
the youngest was, she was 4. She wasn't 5 yet. And my oldest was 14,
yeah.
Just a freshman in high school. So here I am with 6 kids, and he's gone all day, 10, 11 hours. And then you're like, what? You want to go out again tonight? Like cooking, cleaning, grocery shopping, paying the bills, trying to stay on top of things. And so it was stressful. And our youngest son, Jacob, who's autistic, was getting older and could get out of the house and leave, which was frightening. Yeah. So that was really hard because I had a lot of stress with the kids. And then here's my husband. I'm trying to support him, but he wants to go out again. I'm like, hello, am I a single mom? Yeah. So we had to talk about that because I needed him around a little bit more. It was hard that first year, into the second year, definitely. But I knew at the same time I needed him to make these friendships and to meet other men. And because it's funny, he would come home and say, Elizabeth, I just ended up talking about you.
That's what happened when we went to lunch, actually, as he talked about you.
So I'm like, and I'm having all these negative thoughts about you. So I'm really glad that I held my tongue a lot. But a couple times I did say, maybe after, I don't know, 6 months or so, I remember saying, Ricardo, how many friends do you need?
Yeah.
But I finally, because we had that open communication, I learned, oh, he needs that daily affirmation. Going out to a men's group and being told you're loved and that you're worth something is great that one day. But I had no idea that gay men or men that experience SSA or women, that they would need to be told that they're loved and supported, not just once a month
Especially
or once
in our
a
culture.
week. It's really a daily thing. And so I'm like, okay, I get it. And he told me, he's like, Elizabeth, when I'm able to hang out with my friends, I really feel balanced and even. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm a good wife. Okay, I want my husband to feel balanced and even. I don't want him to be here with me depressed. So go hang out with a friend for 2 hours and then come back and let's make this work.
One thing that I like to say
Great
is...
job, Elizabeth.
Thank you.
Just thanks for sharing that. That's complicated stuff, and
Oh, yeah.
it's really good for our listeners just to hear how you've navigated that.
Yeah.
So thank you.
One thing that I wanted to say is that, at least for me, the best way that I could explain to Elizabeth was, now that I look in hindsight, is that when I came out and I was introduced to the community and all that, it's like you were 13 years old again. All these feelings and everything that you kept just suppressed, all of a sudden you can talk about it, you can meet other people in the same boat, and it's extremely overwhelming. It's beautiful, it's very relieving, but it's very overwhelming because I'm not 13, I'm 45, and I'm married and I have 6 kids. So how do you handle that one? I really appreciate, and she knows, I appreciate her support and her understanding, because it takes really true love to go through that. And that's why when we had that difficult conversation back then in October 2015, it kind of opened my eyes to like, oh my, this is not only Ricardo's journey here. I am married to my wife, and my decisions affect her. And we touched briefly about it on the Mormon and Gay video, where she said that she didn't feel number one, that I had to put the phone away. It's still hard for me to put the phone away. I honestly, I feel that things have evolved now. I have a few friends that are very solid, really good friends, but I don't feel like I felt back in 2015 that I had to make all these new friends all the time. I feel that you grow in sense of confidence.
It's interesting.
You grow in sense of self. You grow in sense of identity of, okay, yeah, I get it. I feel that friendship in the community is a bit complicated because we all are learning. And I feel that one of the biggest challenges that I have had is to develop really good friendships in the community that go beyond attraction or beyond the superficiality of the little LDS, LGBTQ culture. I feel that it takes time to get there, but I feel that what has helped me a lot is that little by little I get in more awareness of who I am, and also what is going to bless me instead of stress me out. My therapist, she always tells me, Ricardo, you have the power to decide who you're going to have anxiety about. And that's very wise, really, because at least for me now, every now and then I get a chance to hang out with friends or whatever. But I feel that I've been able to feel more balanced in regards of how I want to navigate with our marriage. We try to go out on a date once a week, mostly Fridays. It's our time to be able to talk. Sometimes we don't get a chance to go on a date, and we just go grocery shopping or whatever. I enjoy talking with Elizabeth a lot in the car. Yesterday I had my therapy session, and we spent like 45 minutes or an hour talking in the bedroom about what I learned. My advice will be, at least for both, for the straight and gay spouses, is really follow the spirit. Look at your spouse. It's hard to do when you're in the thick of it, but look at your spouse the way that the Savior looks at them. That is the biggest difference. Because if you have the ability to see that, then everything else that worries you, everything else that the church culture had put in your head, everything else that you felt that you lost, you're gonna be able to gain more. And it's hard to explain when you don't experience it. And I'm not saying that we have a perfect marriage. What I have learned is that yes, my attraction to men is very real, but I have the ability to decide who I want to share my life with. When I've been criticized about not being authentic, when I've been told that marriages like mine are bad for the LGBTQ community, it's their opinion. What I do know is what the Spirit has told me personally. And that is that Elizabeth and I are an eternal marriage. I'm not going to stress about, oh, am I going to still be gay after death? I don't care. I feel that, and I'm not perfect because I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Same-sex attraction, being gay, is a very complicated road. It's not a walk in the park. And at times, the feeling, the need for connection, or whatever you want to call it, is raw and is very real. And there's no way around it. But what I have done is to try to keep things eternal for me. Not for my bishop, not for the church culture. I go back to the essence, which is the Savior said, take my yoke. My yoke is easy. And whenever people ask me, hey, how do you handle this? You're so courageous. How do you handle the temptation? This is a challenge. In fact, I talked to one of my sister's friends a couple of days ago because I didn't know that BYU Idaho online courses, they go, part of the curriculum is to go over the Mormon and Gay website, watch the videos and learn about it and how to support LGBTQ members. So she contacted me and she asked me, so how you endure in the challenge? And I told her, well, the thing is that it's not a walk in the park, but I don't see this as a challenge. I don't see this as a temptation. What I see is as an experience. And I had to build in and get the tools that I need to be able to navigate through this experience in a way that I feel is honest with me. Mm-hmm. I feel that, at least for me, for Ricardo, authenticity to me is the confirmation of the Spirit of who I am in relationship to the Savior. To me, the Savior is my authenticity model. And I'm not going to dispute anyone's definition of authenticity. But I can go to bed at peace. I can go to bed feeling okay with who I am. And yes, I'm very attracted to men. But I don't let that entirely run the show in my life. I have too many things to worry about. I have kids. I have a job. I have to perform. I have to deliver. I have a wife. And I have to say it took a few years to get to that point. I remember Elizabeth telling me back in 2000, I must have been spring 2017.
Yeah, it was last year. Yeah.
She was coming from the backyard. It was spring. And she just said, just out of the blue, she said, and let me see if I quoted you right, honey. She said, it's just so nice not to think about, as they say, all the time I can think about what I'm going to, a new recipe dinner. Or something like that, you know. I didn't realize how present was in her mind.
All the time.
That's honest.
All the time.
Oh, yeah. And now we look at it more in hindsight. It's a very different way. We don't look at it like, I don't know if I explained this correctly, but the best way that I can explain for me, and feel free to add more, honey, is we look at this experience with, we don't question why. The way we look at it now, we look at it more like, is part of the journey. Um,
And we don't look at it as good or bad. There's no
Mhm.
good or bad. It's just, it is what it is.
mhm.
And so Ricardo has never done anything wrong. And I'm sure there's lots of men and women out there that experience same gender attraction. And they're good people too. And they've never done anything wrong. But I think sometimes that culture, being told that being gay is bad or lesbian or bisexual, it's not. Having an attraction is just part of being human. You're just part of being human. And being human is good.
Yeah, and another thing that I feel that has been really important that has helped us in our marriage in this stage is that Elizabeth has set the tone of how the kids, how our kids look at this experience.
Yeah.
I have heard of friends where the spouse is very shaming of the other spouse, and that shame is by default felt and enhanced with the children. I feel very blessed that she has never shamed me for these feelings. She didn't even know I have feelings of shame, and I can tell you openly, I feel pretty comfortable with who I am. You know, I have been able to understand more about that. But with the children, I remember that my daughter, this is 2 years ago, she must have been like 14, turning 15. She asked me, "Daddy, how gay are you?"
How gay
And
are you?
Yeah, how gay are you? And I was like caught off guard. And Elizabeth just answered, "Well, your father is 70% gay, 30% straight." And we just started laughing, you know. Later down the road, Elizabeth was like, "I think you're more like 99%. But anyway, we can laugh about it. We can learn about it. But it didn't start it that way. And my daughter, in this case, she needed more explanation. Our children, even before I came out, they have seen how we interact. Elizabeth and I are very physical. We always hug, and when we kiss, and they always tease us. Now that they're teenagers, like, "Oh, get a room," you know. But it's nothing that's just who we are. And I'm aware that every marriage is different. Some marriages aren't touchy at all. Some marriages aren't expressive of their feelings at all. Another thing that helps us a lot is that, and I can see how the Lord prepares you. When we were at BYU, we took a marriage and family relations class, and you can say that about the needs.
Yeah. So when we were dating, I signed up for a marriage prep class. It was my senior year. Ricardo was a junior. And it was my last semester. Anyway, so I signed up for it, and he asked me, "So what classes are you taking?" And I didn't want to know because we were just dating. And so anyways, he found out that I was taking marriage prep, and he took the same class.
We went to a class together.
That's awesome.
And then 3 weeks into that new semester, we got engaged.
Mm-hmm.
So it worked out perfect, us taking that marriage prep class. But I think there's a quote that we both will never forget. And it was Dr. Barlow, I think was his name. He said,
Brent Barlow, that was his teacher.
"A good marriage, a spouse will fulfill 80% of your needs." And that just made sense, I think, to both of us. You're
What an
not going to
interesting
fulfill
thought.
100% of your spouse's needs, but a good marriage, 80%. So
And he said, "Be lucky if you get to 80%.
Yeah, be lucky even if you do get to 80%. So that just kind of made sense. I can't fulfill all of Ricardo's needs, and that's okay. I don't have to fulfill all of his needs. So
Elizabeth, that's really thoughtful. Both of you, that's very thoughtful.
It helps us a lot because he gives
And I think
perspective.
it's just realistic. I think we set up
Yeah.
these idolized expectations
these
of marriage.
romanticized ideas.
That
Yeah.
in the reality, that just, and I think you're both real. I don't know if you want to share that experience I saw on Facebook where one of your kids heard some stuff in church that was
Oh
a little
yes,
unsettling.
yes. I
Aaron.
2 Sundays ago we were leaving church and Aaron just
How
my
old's-
son
how old's
Aaron is
Aaron?
13.
So as a 13-year-old,
12, so he just turned 13.
He just turned 13. Yeah, he just turned 13 in Thanksgiving Day. And he kind of came to me, and we were leaving the chapel on the hallway, you know, just
He's our
walking out.
happy-go-lucky son.
He's
He just wakes up happy.
He's in place. He likes to sing. He's a happy-go-lucky guy. he comes to me and kind of whispers in my ear. He says, "Daddy, is being gay being sinful?" And we got in the car, and I just said, "Tell me more about it. What prompted you to ask me this question?" "Well, we were in Sunday school, and our teacher was talking about the quicksand, the things that don't let you get closer to Christ, and they wrote in the word gay." She said that the word gay, if you were gay, you're sinful, and that it won't let you go back to Christ.
Wow.
And I told him, I didn't give him a long sermon or anything like that. I just said, "Well, Aaron, if you go to the Mormon Gay website, you'll be able to read that the brethren said that gay feelings are not a sin. It's what you do with them." "Oh, okay." And that was it.
Now, what a great parenting. There's some cool things about that parenting moment. One is that your son talked to you, and he knew he could talk to you about that subject. And what a great framework. I'll bet your kids can talk to you about a lot of stuff because you're real and open and vulnerable. So I bet your communication with your kids is great. So I think it's really cool. Your 13-year-old son asked his dad.
Yeah, he asked me that.
And then I love your maturity as a parent. And I'm still figuring out this parenting, but you just realized that he didn't need a 2-hour answer on that. And if you'd given him a 2-hour answer, it probably would have caused him to be more unsettled than the 30-second answer you gave him. And how he just then moved on.
And I told him if he wanted to read more, he can go to the website. And when we did the video, because my kids are in the video, I explained to them, and it will take me many hours. I will do these podcasts really long, but whenever I have shared to my children, my oldest 4, about me, when I came out to my children, it's because the Spirit told me. And those are experiences that I treasure because they happen in a very beautiful way. Each one of those experiences. And I feel that when they realize that you love them and that you love their mother and that it's just an aspect of you and it shouldn't affect them, it makes a big difference. My teenage daughter, she's 16 now. She's a lot like me. She's always asking questions. She's always digging. She's always questioning and all that stuff. And she has asked me really direct questions. One time she asked me, "Dad, what kind of men do you like?" Well, I was just very matter of fact. "Okay, well, let me show you a couple pictures of some of my friends that I think they're very attractive." And she's like, "Oh, okay." And then she moved on. I feel that children are smart enough.
What a great thing not to shame your daughter for asking that question.
No. I just told her.
Or be embarrassed. I was going to say, or be embarrassed that she asked you that question. I just think there's a maturity in your family that you can ask really honest questions. And you're creating a culture where honest questions are valued and needed. And I think that's a great parenting skill.
And I think it has a lot to do with the way that Elizabeth and I were raised by our parents. Because Elizabeth has never been shy of answering difficult questions. And Elizabeth is very matter of fact. She doesn't tell you more than you need to know. And I've seen her answering hard questions to the kids. And I'm not even worried, honestly, that she's going to add more than she needs to. One thing that I love about Elizabeth since I met her, when we started dating and became friends, was her sense of confidence and her sense of self. She knows who she is. She knows who she is as a daughter of God. And she has a very amazing way about carrying herself. And I love it when she says, "Well, I'm not going to hide my head on the sand, you know."
Yes, I'm not an ostrich.
She's like, "I'm going to take the challenge as it comes." And that's something that has helped me too, because it's if anything, helps me to know that I'm truly loved. and that she's not faking anything. And if she has any issue, she's the first one that's going to come and tell me. And we were brought up with parents that, or parents, I never saw my father hitting my mother or hurting her. And she never saw that either. So when we have had strong disagreements, all that she will say is like, you're not my favorite person right now. And we take a breather. But again, that's just how we were brought up. And marriages are as diverse as situations in life. Again, we're not perfect. We have many things to learn. But what I love about our marriage is that it's safe.
Mm-hmm.
We're safe.
I just think of these principles of healthy marriages, and I'm not, you know more, I'm not a marriage and family, but I've always used these words when I was talking to the YSAs about getting married, about communication, trust, and honesty. And I'd probably add vulnerability as part of that. But everything you're teaching on this podcast is about a healthy marriage. This is a podcast in some ways about the principles you're sharing here apply to all marriages, because all marriages need what you're teaching here. They need trust, they need communication, they need honesty, and I think you have common goals here, which a lot of marriages do, even marriages that are struggling, is a common goal to make the marriage work, a common goal to raise kids. And so there's beautiful principles being shared here, and then there's the side of me that just wants to close my eyes and have your kids come on the podcast when they're parents. And I get really tenderhearted here because I would guess these kids could give a podcast in 20 years and talk about the principles they are learning in your family and how that is going to help them throughout their life, in their own marriages, their own parenting, and their relationships. So I think one of the beautiful parts of your story that you probably understand this, but hasn't been fully realized yet, is what wonderful principles you're teaching your kids. And what wonderful foundation they have for healthy relationships and healthy life, because you two are so real and so honest and communicate so well and have created this family culture of love and honesty and non-shaming. I think that's just a beautiful future chapter of your story.
Thank you.
That I think is just going to be wonderful.
You know, I remember the day after the website came out, and I was tagged all over the place in social media. One of my
probably when I saw you
one
too.
of my former students, she's less active. She was less active when she was my student when I was teaching, and she sent me a message, and she said, "I feel pity on you, and I feel pity on your wife because she'll never know what it's like to be loved by a real man, and I feel pity on your children."
Wow.
And I was like, wow, here comes the daggers, you know. I look at it now, Richard, and it reminds me of how much we still have to learn from each other's journeys. It reminds me of how much compassion and how much love we need to still to show to others. During the summer, I was struggling a lot because, as you mentioned earlier in the podcast, well-known mixed intermarriages were ending, and it was creating a bit of a havoc and a lot of comments in the community. That was part, but also a few of my friends were leaving their marriages too, that I love and care. And then I hear voices from other people. They get to the point to say that, oh, marriage is like yours is like having lupus. So I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. It was rough. It was hard. I remember telling Tanya, my therapist, Tanya, I don't want to continue in my life feeling like, either I stay in the church married to my wife, feeling all this opposition and all this stuff, or I leave the church and go into a same-sex relationship, one part being fulfilled, but the other one feeling that there's something missing. And she asked me some key questions. And as I've been learning more about these key questions, it's more about the sense of self. I'm not saying that you have to choose either or. All that I have learned so far is that the Savior is mindful of you, extremely mindful of you. And He is also a lot more kind than we give Him credit. The biggest challenge I feel in this journey is self-love and self-understanding. Because unfortunately, we grew up in a culture that shamed us from day one, intentionally or unintentionally. And developing self-love and self-confidence is the biggest, hardest, most challenging thing that I ever face. But allowing myself to develop a saved element within me has helped me, and it will help me more in my journey. Yesterday I went to see my therapist and we talk about that.
It's cool you see a therapist. And it's
yeah.
cool you tell us.
Oh yeah,
that you do.
I think it's amazing, and I love Tanya. She's amazing. She has a gay son, and she has a video on the Mormon and Gay website. But she talked to me about the concept of self, and we did an exercise where I basically realized that through my entire life I have never felt safe completely, and a lot of times we let other things drive our behaviors and how we react. And it's almost like it came full circle to me, because safety with who you are builds yourself and your confidence. And when you grow up being told that your feelings are a sin, or that you choose these feelings, I mean, I can only imagine, because I have felt it, but I can only imagine what it's like to feel in hindsight now that I feel safety. I look at myself that I was a few years ago, and I look at what I have done now, and I cannot believe it that I did it. Because I honestly, when you grow up feeling like this, the last thing you want is just to share it. So feeling safe is key, because it's going to allow you to be able to really let your spirit shine, and it's going to allow you to heal.
Heal.
Yeah.
You have healed each other. We're kind of coming to the end. This is really good. There's just a great spirit here. I hope our listeners can feel this. I've had tears in my eyes. I've seen your tears in your eyes, but this is just a love story. It is a love story. And you have said some things that are so thoughtful and so helpful. Elizabeth, any final comments? And then we'll let your good husband share any final comments.
Gosh, what do I want to share?
And Elizabeth's just been kind of looking at Ricardo the whole podcast.
Sorry I talked too much.
Oh, no.
I could just see the love in her eyes for this good man, and I wish this were a video podcast, because the interaction with you is so tender and so sweet, and the eyes you have for each other.
Oh, thank you.
It's just wonderful.
Well, I love my husband. I've always respected him and looked up to him. And so I think it's amazing these last 3 years with him coming out. He told me, I guess towards the beginning, this was his big dark secret. He was going to take the grave. And boy, you did not take this to the grave. But Ricardo's he's a wonderful man. He's a great husband and father and provider. And I wish everyone could know my husband and know him intimately. I hope that this podcast really does help couples, especially the straight spouses. I know it can be difficult. But I think as they stay close to the Lord, they're going to be guided, because I certainly was guided what I needed to do or not say, because I think I said I had to hold my tongue and just
It's like you were very patient during this kind of. It seems like there's a chapter that sort of ended after you came out that you kind of had to navigate.
Yeah.
But now you're in the kind of the new norm, and I sense that this is a different stage. That stage is over, and you navigated that pretty well.
Yeah.
With no roadmap. There's no church lesson I've heard that would kind of give you. You could open to Elizabeth and say, well, this is how this works.
This is what the straight wife does with her gay husband. No, there's nothing about that in the
Seems
scriptures.
like you did a good job of just relying on the Lord and giving your husband some space there.
I think that was so
to sort
key.
of navigate this, and that's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah, no.
It takes a lot of trust. I think you said, I'm going to trust you.
Yeah, and well, Ricardo's easy to trust because he's so verbal. I'm not as verbal as my husband, so I like to show him how I love him. But he's really great at telling me that he loves me and that I'm number one. So I wish everyone had a husband like my husband, because I think he's the greatest. I think it would be so hard if he wasn't as verbal as he has been. So that's been a blessing. I think we are really a good match for each other.
I think you are. Any last advice for straight, what am I calling them, straight members in the marriage?
The straight spouses.
The straight spouses.
Just to love your spouse that is going through this, because it isn't easy for them to come out, and it's not easy for them to talk about these suppressed feelings. The thing that made me so sad was he could have talked about this sooner. He didn't have to feel all this shame all those years. So I just think the straight spouse needs to love their spouse. They just need to love them and be there. They need just to make a safe space in their home where they can be open and honest and loving.
That's very helpful. And what have you done to kind of keep you going in when you've needed, some strength to keep going?
What? Sleep?
I like that answer.
I'm very basic. Just feed me, make sure I get my sleep, and I'm good. No.
And it sounds like you've really relied on the Savior as one of the themes that you've shared.
Yeah. I don't know. Something in me just to keep going day by day.
That's great.
Yeah. And I kind of knew it was a stage. I didn't know what to call it in the beginning. Later, he called it his teenage years.
That's great.
My SS18s.
Your SS18s. But there wasn't a name for it. But I just knew that I just had to stick with him and be patient. And it wasn't my place to dictate for him what to do or what to say. And I also I couldn't tell him how to feel. Or I didn't feel like you shouldn't feel that because da-da-da-da-da. No, that wasn't my place. That's I needed to allow him to feel what he was feeling during that time of self kind of discovery and what SSA meant to him. Mm-hmm. I just needed him to figure that out.
I love that. And I love this framework from your class at BYU that you can't, I think I've never heard that before. Yeah. I just think the expectation is you have to meet 100% of your spouse's needs. But this framework of saying I need to meet 8, it just seems like that's more doable.
Yeah.
And it just makes you, I think a lot of marriages, as they listen to this, go, well, I can do that.
Yeah, yeah.
And
I
it
can
sort
do
of takes the pressure off in some ways, and it just makes it a little more realistic.
Yeah.
So that's very helpful.
Yeah.
Ricardo, any other last thoughts? Thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thank you for inviting us. A couple thoughts for the gays. spouse, you know. One thing that I always try to do every day is just genuinely make sure that Elizabeth knows that I love her, you know. And honestly, this applies if you're gay or straight. I mean, it doesn't really matter. Is make sure that your spouse feels wanted, that feels loved, feels safe, trusted. Some basic things, you know. Another thing that very quickly I want to explain, because a lot of us straight spouses have a very hard time grasping, well, I'm not a man or I'm not a woman. How in the world, where do I fit? I remember Elizabeth asking me, Ricardo, tell me, what is it like for you to experience an attraction? Again, this is Ricardo. Everybody is different, okay? But for me, if I notice a man that is attractive, I told her, I feel like electricity and I want to go and talk to him and give him a hug. I have never been sexual with men or anything like that, or any other thing. So my brain doesn't really go there. And Elizabeth told me, well, Ricardo, I don't want you to walk in shame anymore.
That's cool.
She said, next time you notice somebody attractive, just enjoy the view like a pretty painting and move on with your life, because I know you love me. You have no idea how much that statement helped me just to feel like, I can breathe. So I will say that
That's cool.
just make sure that you, as the gay spouse, develop the safety to be able to, number one, love yourself, because if you don't love yourself, you're not going to love anybody. And then make sure that your spouse that is going through so much, just put yourself in his or her shoes. What if I'm straight and my spouse tells me, well, by the way, I'm attracted to the same gender. And by the way, I like to be able to hang out with some of my friends and give him a hug. How would I handle that? So when I do this reverse role thing, really helps me to be able to see my wife's perspective and look at it from her angle. And even though I will not be able to exactly feel what she feels, it helps me to keep perspective and just show a lot of love, really. You know your spouse better than anyone, better than any podcast, better than anything that you can read. You know your spouse. And if you don't know them, then work to get to know them, because it can be done if both of you are on the same common goal and if you put the Savior between the two of you. The marriages that I feel that haven't worked for X or Y reason, there's many elements I'm not going to judge. But I do believe that there has been issues with communication. There has been issues with how they feel about themselves. Again, I'm not going to judge anyone, because it's a very delicate topic to talk about, and I don't want to shame anybody. All that I have to say is, if you are married, you want your marriage to work, I believe that the Savior and the guidance that you can receive from him and vulnerability and communications will help you along the way. And of course, seek professional help. Elizabeth and I are not therapists. We're just sharing what we have learned. I'm still going to therapy. and we are way more comfortable talking about our feelings and emotions and what we want in our lives. It's a journey. That's where we are today.
But we're united.
We're united in that sense.
Thank you for joining us. I think about the power of your temple ceiling and the power of those covenants. And one of the thoughts that comes to my mind is you are using the power of those covenants, as you talked about with the Savior, to make him part of your marriage. But you have got some wonderful skills here of communication, trust, honesty, non-shaming, creating safe spaces. So this podcast, all you listeners out there, I think all of us, would just love to put our arms around you and say, thank you. This podcast will be so helpful, particularly some people that are just new to this road that you understand so well. So thank you for your courage to share your life and starting to do that with the Mormon and Gay site with this podcast and what you've been doing. And we just love you. And thank you, Elizabeth and Ricardo, for joining us on another episode of Listen, Learn, and Love.
Thank you.
Welcome.